Hello, friends. Today, let's compare the three types of publications: e-letter, preprint, and review article. So, when it comes to the word count, e-letter uh, can be written in 500 words. Preprint is just like a proper research article for around 4 to 5,000 words, and so is the review article, which is a proper systematic review or a literature review or a scoping review. That is, the word count would vary between 4,000 and 5,000 words. Again, it also depends on the journal requirements. Some journals they accept a higher word count than the one I've mentioned here, but it all depends on the journal requirements. When it comes to the references, e-letters, maximum 5 or 6 references is enough. For preprint, again, it's just like a research article, 40 to 50 or even more references, depending on the journal requirement. And so is with the review article, which is between 40 and 50 or even higher. The key difference between the three is whether these forms of publications are peer reviewed or not. When it comes to e-letter, it is not peer reviewed. Preprints are not peer reviewed. And review articles, yes, they are peer reviewed. So you've submitted this to the journal, it goes through scrutiny, where the editor would send it. If the editor feels that, yes, this article or this manuscript is appropriate and meets the requirements of the journal, then they would send it to 2 to 3 reviewers to critically review the article, and then it goes back and forth with series of feedback and responses, and then it eventually gets published. So it goes through intense scrutiny. The time required to complete the work, e-letter, maximum a month, because it's a 500-word article. A month is more than enough. When it comes to preprint, it is just like a research article. It will take 3 to 6 months or even longer, depending on what level of whether you are an early career researcher or intermediate or very advanced. So, the more experienced you are, the lesser the time it is for you to complete this piece of work. And the same thing applies with the research article. It takes around 3 to 6 months. Now, this is the time required to complete the manuscript. Now, this includes you've done your piece of work, you've done the literature search, you have critically reviewed the articles you've included, you have then summarized it, and then you've written a 500 to 5,000 word manuscript. So this is till then. Now comes the submission and the processing time for publication. So the publication processing time for e-letter is maximum 2 weeks. So say you've submitted this, the editor looks at it. If the editor feels that it needs more information, then they will send it back to you asking for further information. You resubmit, and then once it is accepted, within a couple of days, it gets published. So even if the editor has sent you a feedback, the maximum it will take is 4 weeks. But if everything is straightforward, maximum processing time, that once the moment you've submitted an e-letter, in the next 2 weeks, it will be published. The same thing applies with preprint. Because it is not peer reviewed, it goes to the preprint platforms. So many journals have a preprint platform, so it will not be published in their main journal, but on their preprint platform, where there are many. Actually, I don't want to name any, but there are many actually where you can submit. Sometimes the thing is, when you want to submit your article in a particular journal and where you've worked your manuscript according to that journal's requirements, but you still need some peer feedback before you are confident enough to submit it to the journal to that particular journal. These journals will have their preprint platform. You can submit it to that preprint platform, submit there. Within a couple of weeks, it will be accepted. That gives you an opportunity to get some useful feedback from your peers anywhere in the world. And then you work on that feedback. And then you can then officially submit to the journal. And that processing time takes 4 to 6 months, as I mentioned previously, because it goes through intense scrutiny. So say if you're submitting a review article or any other research project, any clinical trials, and you've submitted that, the processing time, it could easily take 6 months or even longer, but 6 months at least. Now, what are the benefits of all these three publications? You may wonder that why go for e-letter or preprint if it is not peer reviewed, and we would rather just go for a review article straight away. But every form of publication has its use, has its benefits. So e-letters are useful for beginners to get onto the publication ladder. So you don't have enough experience of research and you just want to get a taster of it. Maybe this is a good opportunity for you to develop some initial basic skills of literature search and critically appraising those articles you've selected, summarizing them in 500 words, and then submitting. Even in e-letters, it's not that they would accept any e-letter. There has to be some novelty there. So the way I see it is, you have a concept in mind that, say for example, you've tried this particular therapy and it has really worked. Then you look into the evidence. What is the existing evidence of that therapy? And then you've collected all the information, you've summarized it. And now, so say you've used around 300 words to summarize the current evidence on the use of that particular therapy. Then you are adding another 200 words to share your experience of you've used this therapy in your clinical practice and it has been very effective. So you can use that 200 words. So this is how you summarize, where you are including the evidence-based and your clinical experience together in a 500 words. So it is also useful in developing your academic writing skills and also learning about different referencing styles. So that is very important for academic writing. When it comes to preprint, it gives you an enhanced experience of literature search, critical analysis, and academic writing. Because it is not peer reviewed, so it may not be as recognized as a peer reviewed article, but this gives you an opportunity to get feedback. So you can, once it is published on any preprint platform, you can share it through social media, through other research platforms like ResearchGate, and that gives you an opportunity to get feedback from your peers and from other researchers on what are the areas you need to work on, what further information needs to be added before it is ready for a peer-reviewed publication. So this preprint gives you that opportunity. Even if you've done a clinical trial, so you've done a cross-sectional study or a randomized control trial, and you are still in doubt of, say for example, you're in doubt of the sample size. You couldn't get the sample size you had aimed for, but then you still want to see whether this is still effective. And then preprint could be a good platform for that where you're sharing your entire research study there with data, with the analysis, and then see what comes out of it, whether it is getting that acceptance and recognition. And if you feel that yes, the feedback has been very encouraging, then yes, that gives you an opportunity to then eventually submit that in the journal and get that article published through peer review. So there are many ways where you can use preprint. And there is a perception that if you have submitted your article on a preprint platform, the journals don't, that is one of the drawbacks, and the journals might not take that positively, and it may not get accepted. That is not the case. I have submitted there are a few publications of mine which were initially submitted on a preprint platform, and then it was eventually accepted. So it's not, I don't agree with that perception that once you've submitted your work on preprint, it will be very difficult for you to submit in a journal. No, it is actually an advantage where you've done that preprint, you've worked on the feedback, and then you've submitted. So it shows that you worked very hard on this, and the journal, the editors, and the reviewers will recognize that, and they would see that journey from the preprint to an eventual article published. So, and that is not only something which is encouraging for the reviewers to see that this author has worked really hard, but it is all equally satisfying for us as authors that we've worked really hard and we could see the difference, that how we started and how we ended up, and the kind of recognition it is getting. It is very satisfying. So preprint has its use, and it is very valuable. Again, when it comes to review article, the reason why I have only mentioned review article is this could be the stages which researchers can go through. So maybe if you're new to research, your stage one would be you to do an e-letter. Once you feel more confident, you've worked on a particular manuscript, you submit it as a preprint. That is your second stage. You've got that confidence, you've got that positive, constructive feedback. You worked on it, and then now you're ready to submit. So maybe your third step could be a review article. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a clinical trial or a randomized control trial. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a systematic review. You can do a literature review. You can do a scoping review, where you don't have to do any meta-analyses or draft a forest plot. You don't have to do all that. It is just basic descriptive literature review, and that could be your good step 3, your stage 3, your level 3, where you are demonstrating your research skills, and then you can progress towards other avenues. So as I've mentioned here, that it could be an excellent stepping stone to demonstrate a credible research experience. This gives you an opportunity to develop skills on writing research proposals. So when you're writing a research proposal, you have to do a thorough literature review. This review article could be that literature review where you've done a particular piece of work. This has been scrutinized, this has been reviewed by peers, and this has been accepted for publication, which means that this particular piece of literature review has been recognized. So you can build on it and then develop or draft a research proposal and then apply for funding, apply for ethics. So this is a great stepping stone to do bigger clinical trials and climb onto the publication ladder, and even on your research ladder, and become a very confident, independent, and a very recognized researcher. So I hope this was useful. This was my attempt to compare the 3 types of publications which would be useful for, and I hope it will be useful for early career researchers, could be your stepping stones. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.